Hello and welcome to episode 18 of the CrystalCore Radio podcast. My name is Brian, and we've got a killer lineup of awesome opinions coming at you today, talking about Final Fantasy XIV Endwalker. We're going to be talking about healers, and we're also going to be talking about melee DPS. I think it should be a fun time, obviously engaging here with you guys in chat. If you guys have not hit that subscribe button over here on Ginger Gaming Radio, we'd love it if you do so. Come back and check out more podcasts, live streams, things like that. All in all, let's go around the horn. I'm going to start with you, Riku. You also messaged me about the Black Mage, and Zoila, who's hanging out in chat, followed it up with a picture. So if you guys haven't seen, Black Mage has a cat. I want to just start with you. Why don't you introduce yourself? What are you playing in Final Fantasy XIV? What's your hype level for Endwalker? And then we'll go with Wes, and then we'll go with Sora.
For me, I'm pretty hyped for it, actually.
It's like not hyped at all.
I'm very hyped. This new healer looks very fun to play. It's like, because my only healer at cap really is Scholar, because I did Summoner, because like, two classes at once, why not? And so, Scholar, I have fun playing with, because at least EOS loves me.
Yeah, EOS will always be there for you.
Yeah, unlike everybody else, like, can you be a white mage instead? It's like, no.
So, have you played around with any Astro this expansion at all?
Astro, no, because
Okay.
I was always told that was just RNG healing. It's like, because you have to pull cards, and it's like, okay.
Okay, all right. How about you, Wes? How's it going? What's your hype level at?
It's pretty good. I mean, as a Gundam fan and a Final Fantasy fan, I'm probably looking forward to both of them. I saw as soon as they saw the flying daggers of ethereal energy coming off of them, going, yep, we're going to get funnels. We're going to have funnels to shoot everything. And maybe that means we'll get Gundam Siege plot armor to protect us in those final moments of the raid as well. But yeah, I'm really hyped for the new healer. But I have played every single healer. I've played White Mage, I've played Astro, I've played Scholar. I'm not a too big fan of White Mage, but I do like the complexity of Astro and the reliability that Scholar has.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Scholar was. I think when we look at the healers themselves at their core level, coming into play, I'm really happy that we'll have like 2 pure and 2 barrier now, because I felt like with Shadowbringers, the reason why I ended up just more or less falling in love with White Mage was it just seemed to have everything in my kit that I wanted, and it just did it so well that when compared to, like, because I usually mained Scholar. And I've even mained at one expansion, Astrologian, where it's like I've enjoyed each of the different healers, but White Mage just felt so just well balanced for me personally speaking. And when we look at how they've got, like, I'm just playing the Sage stuff right now on stream, but when we look at how bringing in kind of a focus for Scholar and for Sage into the barrier side, and a focus for Astrologian and White Mage, like instead of trying to balance them out like 4 healers all together, basically they're just going to have to balance 2, like White Mage and Astrologian. How do they play together? Scholar and Sage, like how do they play together? So that way, if one is just easily OP and the other one is just like, no, we don't raid with that. Like, let's say the meta becomes, no, nobody raids with Astro. They can go and adjust Astro much easier because it's much clearly more defined. Sora, let's go with you. How is it going? What's your hype level at? And yeah, talk to us.
Man, I'm doing good. It's been a while.
Yeah. We try to get together for podcasts for PSO Radio like multiple times, and it's just life is busy.
Oh yeah, definitely. But I am definitely hyped, man. It looks so good so far. Just the trailer looked amazing. The reveal of Sage was great. Like, I can't get over how awesome that looks. Like, I'm not a healer main. I play Samurai main, so I'm more excited to see what they come out with as the melee DPS.
Yeah.
But I do have all of my healers leveled at cap. The only one that I haven't really touched is Scholar because I went the summoner route, and it just it levels with it. But White Mage and Astro, being the more healer focused or regen focused, is definitely interesting because Astro can do both. It might not do one over the other better than the two that we have that are defined as a shield healer or a healer, but putting Sage into the mix, we'll have to see how that turns out.
I'm with Wes when it comes down to the and I'm going to probably butcher the name, the Nautilus, or essentially the funnels that fly onto your back and that fly around the enemy, doing all kinds of both damage. And the joke that I was making is like, well, I guess we know healers are supposed to do some DPS. I think this trailer is setting that as putting a final note on that. Jamie in chat says, where are my Scholar mains at? So anybody in this panel a Scholar main?
Well, for healing, yeah, I'm a Scholar main.
Okay. What are your other mains besides the healer side?
Samurai, Paladin, and Gunbreaker.
Okay, very good choice.
And getting into Red Mage now.
Yeah.
Because I'm melting everything in Eureka now, because I'm trying for that relic weapon.
Red's a lot of fun.
Dude, I've go ahead, Sora.
I said Red's a lot of fun, and also Rock is back.
Oh, good. Excellent. Let's bring Rock back into the stream. Hey, Rock, how is your audio now?
How's it sound?
Oh, dude, you sound crystal clear. I can hear you.
Yay!
Amazing.
Also, for anybody who wants to just randomly join, I put the link into chat, so you should see the StreamYards link if you want to just pop in. We're just doing just a podcast of just general thoughts and more. We're talking healers right now. That's kind of the main focus of the conversation, and then we're going to go into the melee jobs, which I'm really excited to get everybody's opinion on, because obviously, like when we talk about jobs, there's so many hints. I've even seen new hints, people kind of new theories, like along the lines of Corsair pirates today. But anyway, like I don't want to get ahead of the outline and of the podcast itself. So, Rock, getting your thoughts now on healers. We have obviously like Chad asking about Scholar mains. Like, do you heal? And if so, what's your preferred healer right now?
Actually, I have healed. I've got the Scholar and Astrologian to cap. Working on a White Mage. Actually, my first healer I started out with was Scholar, and I actually loved using Scholar. So I'm looking forward to this idea of the Sage and the barrier heals and some of that.
So, like, I can't wait to see how this plays out. I've like I said, I've been a main White Mage this expansion and I really actually I've just enjoyed it, but I felt like with the shields, because they took away my protect, they took away my stone skin, and that's something that I'm happy that it is back as a part of the Boshin Southern Front, just to have that feature. But when it comes down to it, I think we're going to see some major reshifts, some major readjustments to all the healers, right? Like when we look at Astrologian and we think about just the different sects. I see that chat's talking about this as well. Just saying the different like the knocked sect for Astrologian probably being removed, since it will have some shield like White Mage has, but one that's it, and that's from Chile. Hey, Chile. So I can see that, like, if they keep the stances, that they're going to fundamentally shift the way that Astrologian plays. And that's kind of one of the main reasons why I want to have this topic in a panel form was, do you feel like Astrologian has, somebody was saying like they're afraid that Astrologian is going to get screwed over again. I'm going to start with Wes. Do you feel Astrologian got screwed over in Shadowbringers? And then we'll just go around the horn.
Yeah, I mean, from almost the get-go from 5.0, because the point that at the beginning of the expansion that their first sort of hotfix patch was a hotfix patch to Astrologian, because its potency just wasn't there. Its heals weren't there. Its damage wasn't there. Now, over the course of the expansion, it has gotten better. It's gotten to a manageable state. But like at the start of the expansion, I was always in the regen spec. But I learned through the course of it, it was easier for me to switch over to shield healing on Astro. And that was able for me to actually survive dungeons a bit better. But it's still, there is a difficulty curve with the job right now.
Right.
And if it's, whereas White Mage, in all honesty, and I don't mean to insult any of the White Mage folks in either chat or in voice here, but White Mage is easy mode. And
I would agree.
Yeah, it's White Mage is easy mode, and Astro is you got to get some skill on there.
I'm offended.
But he's not wrong.
No.
I mean, and Scholar is kind of in between. Like Scholar, I find was my go-to job if I'm going to do dungeons, because I can go to the Scholar and do dungeons, and it's almost to the point where I don't worry about much. Whereas if I want a challenge, I go on Astro, because either I'll have a tank who says, 1, 2, go sprint now. And before I got a cast off, they've already pulled 2 packs. They're down to 25% health, and I'm in damage control big time. And any chance of me actually putting out DPS or finding a card to buff people, we'll have to wait until I've got that tank healed enough to where I can get through this pack. That's even before a boss battle. We're talking about trash in a dungeon. And on Scholar, it's just I put out a couple of bubbles on people, and then I can just focus on just casting away usually, and the fairy takes up for anything that I need to worry about.
Yeah, that's what I've always enjoyed about the fairy. I felt, for me personally, that when like out of the most disappointment that I had in the current expansion was the changes to fairies, was the changes to pets in general. But I don't need to bemoan that here. That's just my Brian's upset about pets.
Well,
I feel that too.
Yeah. You because you're still main and Scholar, absolutely. Go ahead, Wes, and then we'll go to.
I was just gonna say, so even the thing that sort of threw me off guard was getting to 80. Is that you have 80, then you have Seraph that you have to sort of work into its abilities, and Seraph is a very powerful cooldown. It's not as good sometimes. I find Phoenix better on the summoner side than Seraph's abilities are on the Scholar side. So I think they could have made better use of Seraph's cooldown abilities to be a bit, honestly, just be a bit more OP. I mean, if it was because it's in comparison, Summoner's got Bahamut and it's got Phoenix in a row that you can cast one and cast the other, do a lot of damage, but then when you get to the Phoenix stage, sometimes Phoenix was out healing the Scholars pets.
Yeah, it's always kind of fun to see that whenever I'm playing as a summoner, and it's like, here's my healing numbers. I'm like, I wasn't healing. Oh yeah, that's right. Phoenix just out there helping out, add a little bit of utility. Yeah, and then Pulp Tank says that's my my veteran Final Fantasy XI player talking. That's typically where I default back to as well. Now, Ricky, I wanted to toss over to you. Obviously, you're the current Scholar main in the in this panel here. Are you worried about upcoming changes to Scholar now that they're going to have Sage being a barrier healer? And do you think Scholar's going to shift more into a barrier healer style as opposed to the shift that we saw over the last expansion?
I'm just theory crafting here based on the trailers.
Yeah.
But I think that Sage would be more like a DPS equivalent of the Scholar because of the daggers being thrown at the enemies, while us in the Scholar, we don't really have many DPS abilities except for maybe Broil and Miasma. So they would have so much more DPS capabilities than we do. So we would probably still be the main healer. Then Sage would be more DPS healing. Like big damage buffs with small heals, while we have big heals with small DPS.
That'd be a good pairing. I honestly would love to see more functionality and damage come back to the healing. We basically felt like it got super simplified over the course of the last expansion, and for better and for worse. Like, I'm not going to sit here and say it was all bad, but like to the end of the point where, like, for Scholars, I miss Shadow Flare. I really just miss that ability. I would love to be able to have some ground targeting, and we have that with the healer. With Scholar with Sacred Soil, and it was like, man, like that's a great ability. Like, and it's a really powerful one for Scholar. But then at the end of the day, like I was like, oh man, I remember when you kind of had to choose between the two, and I would love to see something come back to that. Now, Pulptic says easy to balance Scholar, make the fairy do the damage. What do you guys think about that?
Is that what Celine was supposed to be for?
She did didn't she boost skill speed or spell speed? Like didn't it was she was more buffy than Regen, but she like all the fairies always had that like just that constant heal going out with Embrace. But
yeah, I told you Celine for DPSing and Eos just for primary healing.
That would be a really good change for Scholar, like coming back to that, where it's like you got your fairy has an identity. So especially if you're going for like you don't need the extra healing, yeah, go with Celine, and then all of a sudden you're now like kind of that utility side of it, because that's one of the things that when you look at the current state, White Mage, Astrologian, Scholar, Astrologian was kind of more the utility with the cards, being able to boost everybody's damage. Do you think we'll see that with all three or all four of the healers having some additional utility? Because essentially that's the utility that people will gravitate to. So if you have an option in utility, people are going to take the damage up. We saw that with the cards with Astrologian. Go ahead, Rico.
No, I don't really have much to add on, but as what you were saying is like, yeah, it's like how Garuda got nerfed, Titan got nerfed, and then Ifrit's the only summon that most people use now in current content, because Garuda's useless now, except for maybe AoE mobs.
All right, what about you? What about you, Rock or Sword? Do you guys have any thoughts on like healer utility?
It's going to be kind of difficult. I think if you go into, a dungeon or into, a boss fight, 8-man, whatever, and you end up having 2 shield healers. Like, you have the Scholar and then you have the Sage both together. It's like, okay, well, who's actually going to be doing healing instead of just protection? Mm-hmm. You can only protect somebody so much with a shield, but they're still going to take a lot of damage.
Can you? I mean, I've seen some massive shields getting put out already in Shadowbringers. How insane would it be to be able to stack shields just to?
Yeah, because right now you can't stack shields, but you can stack regens. Mm-hmm. So are they going to allow a shield stack? I doubt it.
I don't know, man. That'd be kind of kick-ass, in my opinion. What do you think, Rock?
I'm sort of torn because I don't know what's going to happen with some of this, because I know they're trying to balance it out, like you said. So you have one that does one job, one that does another. Mm-hmm. And I can see Sage as being just all shields and White Mage being all healing. So that means you're going to have the other two. Astrologian already has that where it can go either or. Mm-hmm. Scholar right now isn't. It doesn't really have a way. They're going to have to rework Scholar probably to do that.
I think all the healers are getting reworked.
They're going to get reworked. Yeah.
We're getting 4 healers in this expansion. That's how I always view it. I'm like, because I could see them taking parts of the 3 and kind of focusing them in the different ones, right? Where like maybe, like you said, Scholar becomes like the utility healer, where to Astro's a utility pure healer, right? So like if you think of like each one, you have kind of a set of 4, you can kind of balance and choose. So White Mage might be like pure damage and healing. Astrologian might be damage and utility. Scholar damage, barriers and utility. And Sage damage and utility, or something along those lines, where you're kind of having a piecemeal of that. Zoila says Duty Finder is going to be changed to pair direct and shield healers, so you don't get 2 shield healers. I think that's an important aspect. That also brings back that semi-meta of having one or the other, and I think that completely takes away the need for Astrologian to have that flexibility. So I think Astrologian's flexibility is done. I think I would be surprised if they still have the ability to have a region stance and a shield stance. What do you think, Wes?
Well, it's that's another thing about Astro that's going to have to change a lot, because if you look at their entire aesthetics, and I mean their entire aesthetics, from how their spells look, how the cards react, even their limit breaks, it's like right now, if you go into your Region's stance on Astro and you throw out the expected spell, it doesn't look like a Regen spell. It looks like a shielding spell.
Mm-hmm.
That's the aesthetic that it has right now. And even in like in Stormblood, when you had the expected spells, they actually had a combo between shield and regen that would go off. It would show you the effect of a shield, where they'd get a slight shield in the regen stance, but the regen would be very strong. In the reverse, if you went the shield stance, the shield would be very strong, but the regen might be just minor or a shorter tick, where it wasn't just doing that much.
Right.
And then when Shadowbringers came out, they decided to make it where it was just one or the other. But the animation was the same for both. And so Astro's going to have a complete, not just rework for being more pure healing, but also all its aesthetics are just going to have to be redone, reanimated. And when it also comes to talk about Scholar, you say Scholar is mostly barrier. Well, you're the barrier healer in Scholar. Your fairy's not.
Right.
When you can actually hit your couple of fairy spells, what they're actually doing is direct regen, direct healing. Your fairy can actually empower your heals to be better. And it's about managing that makes Scholar fun. And they do have some DPS stuff, but most of their DPS is single target, and their AoE is just, you don't do it. It's fun to do. You can actually save a group with the AoE, but you're not going to recover mana wise from that doing that. You're basically just drained completely. So they need to work better on the utilities of the healers now, because I think Scholar still has good utility out there. Astro's got some better, but they lost a lot of utility when their cards got reworked.
Do you expect or hope for another card rework this next expansion?
I would like it, but I think the cards had to be reworked going from Stormblood to Shadowbringers, because again we lost the TP resource, that it was taken away. I liked it but the RNG factor on the Astros cards is probably its biggest, both its plus and its downfall. That's almost true for even the Dancer job. That's even more RNG actually woes than Astro is. But it if they do it, they got to be beneficial. We have to have better mana management with the job, because that was always a big concern. If they want to make it pure healer, they've got to give it better potency, and that's both its DPS and its healing output. It has to have the high potency. That's what makes White Mage a good, easy healer. Is when its heals hit, they hit strong, and they overheal most of the time.
Okay. Any other thoughts on the healing discussion before we jump into our second main topic?
With them reworking how you're going to queue for dungeons, splitting the healers up so you're not matched with 2 regen healers and 2 shield healers. What's that queue going to be like for healers? Because because people are going to flock to Scholar, or not Scholar, to Sage
at the start for leveling. Like everybody's going to want to. Like, we'll never get around that, right? Like,
it's going to be ridiculous. Like, my DPS time is 15-20 minutes sometimes to get into a dungeon. So I can only imagine how that's just going to skyrocket.
I like in the long of it, I think essentially the goal from a balancing perspective would be that they're not actually trying to balance 4 healers; they're trying to balance just 2. So Astrologian versus White Mage, and then Scholar versus Sage. That would be my natural hope. I mean, thought, unless they decided to make Scholar a pure healer, but like I'm believing that we're thinking Scholar is going to stick with barrier. I'm just reading some chat and it's kind of making me it's throwing off that. I'm like, whoa, could they actually take Scholar and make that a pure healer? And anyway, regardless, that when we're talking about the balance between them, then essentially I think it becomes where you have people gravitate towards their preferred healing type because they could like one of the pure healers might just be the most enjoyable for them to play. So I don't know if it's going to overall impact the times more so that we already saw within Shadowbringers. I thought Shadowbringers did a great job at bringing more people into tanking, even though there's some things I would have still preferred to have in tanking that we lost. So I think we saw that. You could just see it in the queues. But at the same time, there was a bigger exodus in healers, right? That it's like, because it's like a lot of the things that, were fun to do in healing kind of just like, not there anymore. So I spam Gleam or Glare or whatever the hell, over and over and over again for the most part. And then you have a couple things you do. And so I thought Scholar actually was a little bit more interesting from a damaging perspective, but I still wish that we had Shadow Flare and then Astrologian. I was concerned from the cards at the beginning when I played it in the media tour, but at the end of the day, after playing it and talking with Wes about it, I was actually fine with how and the changes they made to Astrologian overall, even though it took a little bit longer for me to warm up to those changes. But it took a conversation with Wes to actually kind of make it say, oh yeah, this is actually kind of fun.
Right.
But that's what it ended up saying now. And I can't pronounce the first part. We're just going to say gaming. Personally, I'm wondering if Sage will have a balanced play style in that you can easily switch between healing and DPS. And I wonder if Sage will be the highest damage dealer for a healer. And it looks, they're showing off more of its output than its healing. Obviously we've only seen the trailer and we've seen some of from the gameplay perspective. So I don't know. I hope so. But then I would worry that because no matter what, people are going to be excited because it's new. And then if it happens to also be best, which we've seen from time to time when they introduce new jobs, they always seem to be OP. I would bet that if anything's going to be really damage heavy, it's going to be Sage. That would just be my thoughts there.
I'm wondering if it's going to be like finally we get a Final Fantasy version of a discipline healer from WoW, which is a discipline healer in WoW doesn't heal, it attacks. And each attack has a random passive result of putting shields and healing people around it.
Dude, I would love that.
So as our little psychic controlled daggers are killing things, it's actually like healing the tank. It's healing the Dragoon that's fixing to die on the corner. It's keeping everybody up, and we're actually helping doing the damage, which again, because it is new and probably will make the raids go, yeah, we want that one. Because for raids, the more damage, quicker bosses die, quicker stuff gets down, and plus it's helping heal the group.
Yeah. Excellent. All right. Anybody else? Riku, do you have any final thoughts on healers? Rock, do you have any final thoughts?
Just a comment. Comment that what you're saying just reminds me of when I was a troll shaman. Where it was a discipline healing.
Yeah,
it was so fun. Also being a troll, it made more sense.
All right, Rocky, any final thoughts before we move into our job melee discussion?
Not really. I'm looking forward to the DPS. More we find out about DPS for Sage, because that will. How is it going to work? Is it going to work like Wes was talking about? Is it going to just be pure DPS? Are the shields going to be so strong we can pop one on and then just go back to hitting away at stuff?
Yeah, I'm really excited to see what they show us off in May. I wonder if we'll get any more hints or teases as a part of as we build into 5.5 or more. So we will see what happens and how Alphino makes his transition over into a Sage, which is it's going to be exciting.
Yeah, what happened to his Moonstone Carbuncle?
Yeah, I know what happened. All right, guys, let's shift over into talking about Endwalker's melee job. Obviously, lots of hints. Chris and I posted a video about this over on Work to Game today. I'd love to know your thoughts. Let's start with you, Wes. Where do you land? Are we in the necro, pirates, judge? Like anything and all. There's no wrong answers. It's only pure fun. What do you think we're going to see as a part of the next job for Melee?
Well, because I saw Mione's video where where Yoshi P did an interview and said it actually would be using maiming gear that Dragoons use.
Yeah.
Which,
about time.
Yeah. Which is what I think both Dragoons and Ninja are in this way in terms of gears, that their main body gear, they're the only ones that use that.
Yeah.
There isn't another scouter, there isn't another maimer in the game. Though Dragoons do not Dragoons, but Ninjas for accessories do have to compete with all the ranged physicals, whether it's Bard, Dancer, or Machinist. Whereas the accessories for Dragoons are shared, I think, between Monk, Samurai, and Dragoon. So, that being said, yeah, I think what I believed was we would be having a scythe wielding Melee that does have necro abilities. So similar to how the Machinist summons in robots for just a minor burst attack, that could be the necro ability where we summon in undead that come up and just smack something for a bit to then fade back to dust.
Yeah.
And go back or we summon void walkers, as far as I know. And but that's probably what I'm envisioning. Also, what I thought of is with the scythe, and there is a Gundam influence. I'm thinking of the Death Scythe Gundam, which cloaks most of the time, and then when it appears, it just annihilates something. So, and I started thinking about that and going, well, Ninja also has a cloak ability, but it's been broken forever. It's we do our trick attack. We have to hit them with water to do the trick attack inside of a dungeon or in an instance. Only time we can do trick attack out in the world and use the hidden ability is when we're by ourselves. Because as soon as a tank pulls in a group,
you can't use it.
Yeah, the ninja gets knocked out of its cloaked ability. And I'm also, being an avid Star Trek Online player that plays Klingon or Romulan, those characters have it where when they come out of cloak, their attacks are 3 times stronger than when they're not. And so I also envision says we come out of cloak, we do a big burst damage, and then we can hit them, do a secondary burst through a summon, and it'll be that kind of job. And if they can fix the stealth and the hidden ability, where we actually can use it in instances, that would make it a lot more fun to use.
What about you, Riku? Where you fall in the Melee job speculation?
Let's see. Based off of the shirts, we saw a no comment, and then he changed his shirt on an intermission.
He changed 3 times.
Yeah, and then I was also counting the rings, because it's like the rings and the necklace also had to mean something. Because he had 5 rings on one hand, 3 on the other. Although that could represent the shards.
Good.
And of course, it was also half the yin yang, so light and darkness.
Which is very on theme for this expansion. We're coming to the Zodiac and Heidelin final arc here, so ultimately we'll have to see how that plays out. So, if you had to put money on a guess, you can make it up yourself. It doesn't have to be any.
I would say along the lines of maybe a Death Fencer.
Oh yeah.
Could use a scythe or a sword, or maybe like a whip scythe, like an Ivy from Soul Calibur.
Oh yeah, that'd be cool. A whip scythe. Honestly, I really hope they lean into just the fanciful. Like if they're going to do something like that.
Rydia used a chain whip as well from 4. Rydia had a chain whip.
Yeah, and also Final Fantasy VIII.
Quistis. Yeah.
All right, how about you? We'll go with Rock. Where do you fall?
Well, I'm gonna sort of go out on a limb. I know a lot of people want to hear Necromancer.
Yeah.
But Necro has not been something that's been big in Final Fantasy.
Correct. Final Fantasy V, and is there any other? I can't think of any.
There was one other one, and I can't remember it right off the top of my head. But
maybe Chat will weigh in, yeah.
Yeah, so it's I just can't see it working well, because what people would want is they would want it to be much like a lich, the type character, and I just can't see 14 pulling that off.
Yeah.
So I'm leaning more towards maybe Judge or Templar, or a combination of those two, or maybe even something like a Corsair. I know a lot of people would say, well, we already got something that does guns. It could happen, but I'm thinking more Judge or Templar, mainly because it might tie into the story that we have to make judgments, or, and Templars are righteous knights in a way. They could use the maiming gear. The swords are already there for some of the stuff. So that's sort of where I'm coming down on that.
Sora, you're up. What do you think?
See, I have a hard time looking at his shirts and going, yes, this is what it is.
Yeah.
Because of the whole blue mage thing with his blue shirt and everything. And he's like, nope, it's a different thing. The reason I say that, so yes, his first little hoodie thing said no comment. The second shirt had the Reaper and everything on it, but I do believe that shirt was also tied to a rock and roll band.
Yeah.
His shirt during the live letter was a shirt by a band called Children of Bodom, who is a Finnish rock heavy metal band. See a theme there, rock music. So it could go into something that direction instead of everybody going, it's a Reaper and they use a scythe. Well, it could be something different, and it uses the earth in some way, shape, or form. So I don't know. I'm excited to see what it ends up being. I'm not going to make too many speculations on what it could be. I like my melee DPS, so whatever it's going to be, I know I'm going to pick it up and I'm probably going to love it. So
I think it's fine to make speculations as long as we don't set our joy on that. Like if it's not Reaper, then I'm out of here. It's like no. It's like if it's not Reaper, cool. Like what is it? I'm excited to see what it is. I think the thing when we from a theme perspective, when we look at the jobs and the melee DPS, I'm happy to hear that it's maiming gear, so it kind of aesthetically falls with the Dragoon. Has maybe a little bit more survivability, like Berserker, something that it's like big and brooding that isn't a tank, in that regards. Obviously, like your race is still going to be your race, but it would be really neat to see something along the lines of just like this pure rage monster DPS kind of style things that falls into that same category. And that's where it's like when I looked at like Fury, I was like, I wonder if it'd be neat to see if there was like, hey, yeah, we're having a Berserker and they're going to dual wield axes, or they're going to, have a really big hammer, or, what have you. And guess what? Good news. It's not a tank, so it's like, let's have some fun with this and just kind of be like, up close and personal and big, and not as squishy as something like the monk, the ninja, or not dancer, or monk, ninja, or samurai, where they're kind of like more about agility, evasion, and movement. And then you get something like, Dragoon's got a little bit more range, and then you get like whatever this ends up being. And the other aesthetic that I like is that in the something of the opposite of Red Mage, where it's like, yeah, you're up close and personal, you're lots of melee, and then maybe a little magic, like what Wes was saying, how it's like you kind of build up to, okay, cool. Now here's the void, and here's, they're not always out pet class kind of concept where it's like, and that's actually out of all of this and the jobs, I really want to know what they're doing with Summoner and Scholar. Like Summoner and Scholar are like, I'm like, yes, I'm going to play these two new ones, whatever this other melee one is. I might even do that as a first time playthrough of the expansion, which would be a first for me, because I was like, oh yeah, I usually do Summoner through the first playthrough. And now that I can't Titan, pet class it, I'll just, I'll do something else through this one. But yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Any thoughts on that at all?
So I've also heard speculation of them actually using like going off of Ranjit in that the DPS class is actually going to be his class or whatever he was because of the whole scythe thing. But then you have the dragon that he had around him. Like, what did that actually do? Where did that come from? What was it? Was it part of the weapon? What, like, is it going to be a Beastmaster without actually being a Beastmaster?
Yeah.
It could. Who knows?
Now, we don't have this as a topic. Go ahead, Wes. You're about to say something?
No, I was just, yeah, but that also probably works for what I was describing, because if you looked at Ranjik's attacks, he was a monk on steroids, and his scythe was used more for defense. He always attacked you with punches and kicks, and then the snake would then come out, or snake or serpent dragon, however you want to describe it, would come out and do a sort of this burst attack onto the field. And so that does go back to what I was describing of where you call in something as a burst attack pet, but it'll be interesting to see what they actually do there.
But would they also take that away from the Dark Knight, where you can just call your shadow for, however long? Are they going to take that identity from that and just go, oh, well, now a melee DPS has it too?
Well, in a way, it's the Dark Knight has it there. The Machinist already summons mechs, so you already have a couple of classes that will summon things.
Yeah, I guess
as part of a last ditch effort. I mean, though the Dark Knight can summon a clone of itself that will fight for a short period of time. Yeah, and Ninja has shadows. Ninja also can summon a frog that will just blow fire onto the field. So
true. Okay.
So it's I think it's a burst attack, but then when you look at its limit break, like the limit break for Machinist is a giant gun that just beams right to the target. Whereas the limit break for a Dark Knight, well, it is just Blackest Night times affinity, to where it just shields everybody. So again, it'll be interesting to see what they do.
So I've got a random question for the panel. How awesome or awful would it be if we ended up, as we go to level 90, get our own personalized limit break or some kind of system like that? What do you guys think about that?
Highly doubt it.
If it doesn't take away from the limit break bar, I'm all for it, because
I'm gonna steal this limit break from y'all.
because that's what I originally thought when I said first being a nub I running through some dungeons as my paladin or gladiator at that time. I kept using the limit break because I thought, hey, I'm gonna do this cool attack against this boss, and then people would stop using the limit break.
Yeah,
and it's like. I thought it was really cool. I thought we should have got our own, because like I'm used to more classic Final Fantasies, and it's like go
ahead, Sora.
Oh no,
who said that? Wes.
Wes. Yeah. I was going to say, we already have if Limit Break 3 is our individual limit break, but the thing is, I'd probably like to see is instead of Limit Break only being available in group content, I want it in solo. If you're out in the world and you have that limit break bar building as you're out in the world, and you can use it on solo.
Yeah. I think it would just be... Go ahead, Sora.
It's kind of taking the idea from how they redid Diadem and putting that into what you would be as your personal limit break out in the world. I mean, that they could theoretically do that.
I just think it'd be interesting as our power level increases. We're God Slayers, we fought, monsters that can go to limit break bar 5. It's like, so there's obviously like they've set up, the idea that there's even more possibilities out there for these kind of things. And from a gameplay perspective, like some of what we have is with our job abilities, that as you build up, like points, then you can execute certain special abilities. And I think it'd be something that'd be interesting to see them, like gameplay wise, without bringing that in at this also late in the game too, could also completely break and destroy the game. So I'm not sitting here advocating for it. I just always like to get people's opinions on that perspective. Now I do want to show off a couple things and just a couple extra little topics, since we have a little bit of extra time today. We usually try to keep things locked to an hour, but hopefully we'll be getting, as we build into Edgewalker, more of these community casts together to talk about like the news and what's happening. But so Ilya says, remember the Puppet Master was actually created because they didn't want to do Necromancer. And so that's where it's like when I use hopefully Necro and Reaper kind of interchangeably, it'd be interesting to see because they even teased as Puppet Master as a limited job. They even teased Beastmaster as a limited job. And I think with, and this is just my personal theory, the reason we didn't hear anything about a new limited job as of current is probably due to the fact that Ultimate got delayed. And the fact that it's like, hey guys, by the way, Ultimate's delayed. Oh, and Beastmaster's here. You know, it's like, I think they'd be like, why did you waste time on Beastmaster? Like, we want Ultimate. So I think essentially that probably, if it was going to be en route, that it got delayed alongside with any kind of Ultimate things that didn't get fixed. Is there any kind of consensus there? Or is that crazy theory? I'm going to start with Riku.
I don't have anything on that right now, but I wanted to backpedal a bit where you said about being Godslayers and stuff. And then I was thinking how we have this quote unquote a nerf happening, or the damage squish happening. I was thinking that we would appear to be weaker now is because our connection to Hydaelyn is getting weaker. And it's like that makes sense lore-wise now to have this squish.
Yeah, I mean, you could easily fit that right into the lore. I like that.
All right, now we can go on with. I just want to interject that.
Cool. Anybody else have a thought or anything you want to add? Chili says, "Give me Beastmaster over Ultimate." Yeah, Ultimate. That's how powerful our limited jobs are. Everybody.
Well, I'm sort of with Chili on that.
Blue is too OP. Please nerf.
Oh my gosh, 1.9 million is what I saw somebody do. Like, oh yeah, they're gonna nerf that. I think nerf everybody around the horn.
Right.
I want to say Zoila and Riku pointed this out. We were kind of talking about this a little bit in the pre-show. I figured I'd bring it up since we have a few more minutes left for this podcast. Black Mage being shown off with a little cat in its depiction. And that would be awesome. Hopefully that's just not a minion. What's the over under on Black Mage having a little pet?
It's about time.
I would love it if it can do damage.
Maybe Black Mage will get a second soul stone called Witch.
Yeah. Oh, dude, that'd be kick-ass. Right? Like all of a sudden it's like, by the way, you can go Thaumaturge, you can go Black Mage, you can go Witch. I know it's never going to happen, but there's another like timeline out there in which that like you had multiple job stones per class.
That's why I still think a freelancer needs to be a job where we can have all the weapons up to level 30 of each skill.
Mm-hmm. See, that was what the class system was, though. It's like it gave you the most flexibility over any of it, and so then you could end up like just like that was your solo class way to play solo in 1.0, and then in 2.0 that kind of went off the walls.
Well, I missed before Meteor then. Because I really came in mid-Storm Blood, so.
Okay. Yeah, it was interesting because like jobs, like if you try to play as a job solo in 1.0, like you'd get destroyed. But as a class, you could take and pull in so many different skills, your survivability was off the charts. But I remember I was like, oh yeah, I'm gonna be a Black Mage, run around, murdered. And then it's like,
I did hear about Summoner having Thunder as an ability too. It's like, what?
Well, Summoner didn't exist in 1.0.
Where it could get a Thunder as an added ability.
Back with the cross class. That was oh man, like
I do miss the cross class.
I miss it in theory because ultimately the cross class was so flawed and boring because they really didn't play with it. It was just like, okay, here's your 5 skills. And 2 of them are the ones you're going to take because the rest are just junk. Like if you they would give you a weapon skill that would have nothing that it comboed off of, so you wouldn't take it. Like it was like, okay, I'm just going to waste a cooldown, as opposed to like, well, obviously I'm going to take this one that's off the global cooldown. Like that's like oh man, back in a theoretical world. Go ahead, Sora.
I was going to say, have them take a look at how PSO2 did it in their sub job. Like do that as a cross class instead, so you can level up a second class and then pick and choose, okay, well, I want this kind of aspect to buff my current job or what my main job is.
Are there any Dragoon mains here in chat or in on the panel?
Not currently. I was Dragoon maining for a while. I really do like floor tanking.
I was I don't know, like I'm weird. I had this dream, and it was that Dragoon got the pet wyvern at level 90, and it's just like I can't get it out of my head. So I tweeted it out. It seemed to be that's where I think we saw y'all send the thing with the cat. But yeah, there's the Final Fantasy 11. Actually, 22 likes. It's not bad for me on Twitter. I was just like, good Lord, how awesome! Like I love that about Dragoon, but I know Yoshi P's stance on pet classes, and I was just like, how is it? Let's say we do get a Reaper, or a Judge, or whatever. Like when it comes down to the new melee job, like what would be interesting ways for them to separate and evolve the current set? So if anybody here likes a specific melee, like what would you like to see for that melee at level 90? Because I would say Monk got I think some of the most interesting changes, but it's still not enough to get me to go and want to play Monk over Samurai. And same thing over that. Like my top DPS melee is Samurai still. And I would be kind of curious as y'all's thoughts as to what would make you either switch or return to one of these melee jobs.
Well, I like on Ether, Samurai is my melee class I play.
Mm-hmm.
On Crystal, it's Ninja. So
okay.
For Samurai, if you're talking about a level 90 ability, have it go into a burst mode where it's actually instead of the sheath just being on your hip, you pull the sheath out and the sheath takes one hand and the sword is in the right. Your speed is up, everything is picked up, and yeah, you're basically just able to hit 3 times faster and for that little burst of speed, and then it comes off cooldown. For Ninja, if we're going to go Ninja, you give us real Shadow clones.
Oh man, that'd be neat.
Where you actually have 3 or 4 representations of yourself that will mirror you, but they are different. They can go around a target and attack all different sides. So, if you're facing the target and you miss hitting an offside cooldown, well, your Shadow did it correctly, and you didn't have a DPS loss there.
Mm-hmm. Rock, how about you?
For the Dragoon at level 90, I would love to see it do some type of skill or ability that would turn us into a full raging dragon.
That's lore.
That's a city right there.
Total berserk dragon that just obliterates stuff for so many seconds.
Mm-hmm.
Riku.
Oh, well, I mean, to add on to that Samurai ability, I was thinking maybe more of a Xantasuken, where it would be like, Odin's ultimate attack, where the Samurai would just rush in and do a massive AoE that has a potential to do crit damage or kill instantly.
That'd be neat. Sora?
Well, as a Samurai main, I don't know. I would like to see something that like we have a gap closer already, but I would like to see something that also works off of the meditation stacks, other than just that one ability.
Okay.
Is something where it's a gap closer, but you don't just stop at the target, you actually go through the target, so it's more of a line AoE. And it actually does the sheath the sword and then boom, there's a whole bunch of damage. Now, because it's like you're getting yourself ready with the meditation stacks to do this maneuver.
Yeah.
And then you can just line AoE straight through everybody.
Exactly. Now, I want to add, and Lennox says, I would like to see Red Mage get Insuna and Paladin get a res. I'm on the Paladin res train, and I've been on that for a long time.
Did they have it in 1.x?
Yes.
Well, I thought with the cross-class Paladin had a res as well.
Cross-class Paladin could have a res. And it wasn't battle res, so it wasn't as useful in dungeon content, instance content, because when would you like out in the world, like you could just res somebody, which was nice. The fact with Boja, like Chris has been taking like a res, etc., and it's really handy to have a tank who can res, because it'll be interesting to see if like they give like with the melee whatever this melee job is, if it comes in like how Red Mage has a res, like all of a sudden, like if it was a Necro Reaper, if it's like, oh, they have a res because of utility reasons or something like that. So who knows how that's going to ultimately play out. But yeah, personally speaking, I would love to see that. And I would love it if like to balance, counteract that, because it's like, oh no, that breaks, like you could always be resing in dungeons, or you'll always want a paladin over everybody else. Well, like imagine if Phoenix Downs could be used, but they would have like some ridiculous cooldown. Like it's like, okay, you can use one every 2 hours. Go nuts.
or have it on cooldown like a Hallowed Ground.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, a longer cooldown. It wouldn't be something that you could use multiple times.
Yeah, like every 500 seconds.
I'd even make it like 1200 seconds. Like it would just, like, yeah, you can use this. It's there. It exists. Or I guess maybe like if they wanted to make it fair, you could have it on all tanks and it would just be like 100% your MP. It's like,
It has to be at 100% MP, not just one MP left.
Just like, yeah, it's like,
as a warrior, you wouldn't care.
As a warrior, you'd be like, all right, I don't know what this bar is for.
Right.
What is this bar? This bar is representative of an old system that.
Well, Gunbreaker doesn't really use the bar either.
Isn't it regen cast magic?
Yeah, well, just no. As in my experience as a Gunbreaker, I hardly use the MP at all.
Well, I'm just saying, like, I didn't know that their heal. I didn't know. I thought that was
Aurora uses the. No, I don't think Aurora uses much MP at all. Very little.
Just take out my Gunbreaker again.
Yeah, well, I've been doing Gunbreaker. I never pay attention to it. It's like I'm even on Paladin, like unless I'm clemencing, I'm never worried about MP. It's just a part of your rotation, and if you set yourself up correctly, you'll be at 100%. Like you're never sitting here as long as you're doing your rotation. So I never feel it in that way. So that's just kind of my perspective in that regards. All right, guys. Anybody here got anything they want to plug before we wrap up the podcast?
I'm planning on becoming an actual 14 channel sometime soon.
Woohoo!
More in the lore works, because I have the lore books. So it's like, hey, why not do a reading every now and then?
Yeah, I especially as we go into this next expansion, people are going to be wanting to get caught up on that lore. Go for it, man. Anybody else?
I have been on a little bit of a hiatus with the move and everything like that. We're still trying to get everything unpacked, but I'm hopefully going to be sitting down and doing a little bit more streaming, probably starting in March.
Mm-hmm.
Doing some Final Fantasy, doing some Destiny, some PSO. Started getting into Monster Hunter, so maybe some of that. We'll see.
Nice. Yeah, Destiny 2 Season of the Chosen starts tomorrow. I hope that this is the season that invites me back in. And then static on the line.
let me know.
Like,
let me know if you do, and I'll run around with you.
Sounds good. Rock, Wes, anything y'all want to plug or promote?
Well, no. I'd like to promote the event night for the Work the Game Free Company. I've been sort of taking a break, but I'm hoping to get back into that, and especially with this new idea of this data center type thing, it would be awesome that I could finally pull in Soro to play some of the stuff that we do, some of the mount farming and some of the other stuff. So hopefully if people will watch out for that, they'll see that being posted on Discord here in the next week or so.
Oh man,
I am on the same data center. I just, like I said, I've been a little busy.
He's been moving, adulting, all that good stuff. Wes, how about you, man? Anything you want to plug, promote, or share before we wrap up the podcast?
Only to share. I mean, well, I'm also kind of taking a break from 14 right now because of also in the live letter they said they were going to fix the Boja issues, but it's coming in a hot fix. I don't know when the hot fix is, so everybody else is kind of the same faction. So they're like, should we do this now or should we just wait till the hot fix? Or you have half the group just waiting for the hot fix.
It's like they even like they took out your knees and then told you to wait, because it's like that's what Chris and I were saying. We're like, well, all right, I guess everybody's going to wait for this hot fix, and we don't have a date. Well, wait till for the rewards that people are wanting.
So I'm looking forward. Then in the meantime, I've already they've already charged my card for the new Mario game that comes out next week.
Yes.
So, which is actually 2 games in one.
Yeah.
Looking forward to both that. It looks like to be a lot of fun. So it's actually already downloaded on my Switch. I'm just waiting for it to say launch day so I can actually play the thing.
Yeah, I'm thrilled to play that with Maddie. I'm looking forward to that. Absolutely.
And all thing about that one is that it actually has online play, whereas you can group up with 4 people online. If your Switch is on the internet, you can group up.
I missed that completely. I did not know that. I was like, what? Oh,
yeah.
Wow.
That's with Bowser's Fury, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fury. I did not know that. That's such a surprise. I love finding things out of games that I'm not actively like.
Well, Bowser's Fury, Bowser's Fury has 2 games. It's Super Mario 3D, which is a 4-person game. And then Bowser's Fury, which is you and a friend could, like, you can take up the Mario character and the other one can take up Bowser Jr. and to both get to the end and get Mario to his giant Gundam-esque Goku Super Saiyan cat form to fight Bowser at the end of that game. So all that I'm looking forward to, and it gives me something to look forward to. And of course, I'm also playing a lot of Star Trek Online right now. That they're doing their anniversary event. Of course, goes with the drama of that game. Of its very mobile-esque, competitive. Well, I say mobile-esque payment structure where they try to sell you everything and anything under the sun.
Before or after EA and Disney?
There are times Star Trek Online make EA's efforts look not so questionable.
Goodness gracious. Yeah.
But I mean they're doing a new model where their new model is, well, we can't if the EU is going to push this no lockbox stuff go through, we'll just sell the stuff to you directly. But we're going to earn the same amount of money as if you gambled with us.
Yeah,
so
yeah. It's like they know. They're like, okay, if we put it at this odds, we're gonna make $500. And it's like, all right, well, if we're gonna take out the odds, it's $500.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like that's exactly what's going on with the Legendary pack they released last year, which was, it's a nice pack. I mean, you get every single Enterprise ever made, from the classic TV series all the way up to the Disco Connie Enterprise that was shown in the TV show. Good abilities, good skill. Here's the catch: the set was $400.
Ooh, that hurts.
Yeah. Now, granted, when it releases, oh, by the way, it's half off, and we had a Zen sale, which Zen is the currency that you can use real world money to buy. So that dropped it down from $400 to $150, and that was a bit more manageable for folks. I was able to buy that one. They have another set they're talking about releasing, and everything on the blog post for those like me who are into the high end on that game, where we push the high end numbers, we try to break the parsers, break the instances of how much damage we're doing. We looked at the specs going, yeah, this isn't worth the cost.
Right.
It's the 10 ships from last year, that was worth the cost. This one, 4 ships, where the stuff, it's like you're getting a raid weapon, but the stats from the crafted one in Final Fantasy XIV were better.
Interesting.
That's what it's looking like right now. So it says, why should I give you $200 for 4 ships when I gave you $150 for 10 ships last year?
Right. As we wrap up, Chili, thank you so much for the €2 saying 2021, the year of the Gundam. And he says that I'm also still sad that the CE of Mass Effect Legendary Edition, as it comes with the still 10, but there's no game with the CE. LOL. So, very EA. Absolutely. All right, guys, that wraps us up for today. Thanks everybody for hanging in, coming out for this impromptu CrystalCore Radio podcast. Thanks everybody for tuning in. Hopefully y'all enjoyed the show. Hopefully we'll see you in our next one. But until then, take care.
And cut.